But yeah, Steve, thank you very much. My name is Rob Watson. I'm the General Manager for ESW Solutions and for Talking Slides. I've been with the company now for 17 years, and my main role, so you know where I'm coming from, is the operational side of what we do. So it's there's the staff, the kit, the logistics, the planning of the event, and putting the right crew and kit in place at the right time. As I said, been with the company for 17 years. Talking Slides, which is our recording and has the video side that Mark was just talking about, it's something we started about 4 years ago, coming from customers requesting the ability to do exactly that, to record and post videos for their members after the event. And that's been doing very well for us for about 3 years. Enough of the plug. I'm going to go through today very quickly. It's going to be a bit of a whistle-stop tour, I'm afraid. But we're going to look at what's involved from our point of view when we start with a fresh conference and translate that into a few tips for yourselves when you're looking at venues and when you're looking at sponsorship opportunities, to how that can actually help you have a more efficient event, save a bit of money, and give a bit of added value to your clients as well. So I'm going to start by looking at what to consider from an AV point of view, and space. The room, the space that's available when you look at a room. Now you walk into any room and any good salesperson in the hotel will give you their maximum capacity. We can get 300 people into this room, theatre style. And what they often won't tell you is that they can do that, but if you want to put a stage set in there, if you want to rear project it, you've got to get your technical crew in at the back. Suddenly you're going down from 300 to 250 people, and it's quite an important thing to remember. In larger venues, not such a problem. Some of the smaller ones, we do get caught out quite a lot. Just to give you an idea, you have room for sort of 200 people, maybe a 10-foot wide screen would be at the front there. To rear project and put a stage in front of that as well, you need to allow something like 20 feet before you even look at putting your chairs in the room. So it's just something to consider when you're walking in. They're giving you those figures. Just ask the question, will that allow for me to put a stage set in? The other one that we come across quite a lot is ceiling height. Lovely ceiling height in here, but believe it or not, that is very nearly at 3 meters, about 2.8, something like that. And this is only a 6-foot screen. And really, that's kind of the minimum height for the screen. Even if you're sat at the back now looking over people's heads, you might not be able to see quite the bottom of that screen. So just bear that in mind. Again, based on a 10-foot screen, that's going to be 7.5 feet drop on that. So I'll now try and convert that into meters for you. Roughly, it would give you about 10 feet. So you'd have about 3 feet below your screen. And if you're 200 back, you're not going to see that sight line. It's not a problem, you know, that we can work around anything. We can put relay screens in, we can put extra screens in. But if you're looking to do this and just give your members a bit of value for this event rather than it being a big money spinner for you, it's something to think about, because it will keep your budgets down if we can just put one single screen in at the front. That'll help you out a lot. And also sight lines for pillars. I mean, this room is classic, really. It's great for this sort of size of event. But if we have people that have to sit around the corner there or sit around the corner there, suddenly the sight lines are not there. So it's just something, as you walk around the room, bear in mind and just ask the organisers exactly what it's all about. Technically, when you're in a room, things that you can ask them. The obvious question is what's included in the room. You know, do I get a projector? Do I get a screen? Do we get a sound system? These kind of things that are obvious. One thing to bear in mind is there any staging included in the room? If you're going to need staging, which for any sort of medium to large event you're going to, staging can be a very expensive thing for an external company to bring in because it's heavy, it takes a lot of transport. And the moment you start bringing stages in, you're normally always bumping your transport up. So it's well worth bearing that in mind. If the hotel or the venue can provide it, and you can ask for it at the time of negotiating your contract, generally they'll just throw it in, and it can help save quite a lot on transport. Other costs that jump up and get you sometimes is power. Exhibitions particularly, you need to be, if some of your stands are going to ask for some big power, you need to bear that in mind. From our point of view, in a conference room, 13 amp is normally free. But if we're putting in a big lighting truss, or there's a lot of relay screens or anything like that, we may need something up to, say, 63 three-phase power, which effectively is a plug, but you'll pay upwards of £500 for that plug per day. And again, if you're talking to them at negotiation stage, you tend to get a little better response than if we're talking to them further on down the line once you've signed all the paperwork for that. Also, things to check are things like internet access. A lot of venues will say they have free Wi-Fi, which is fine for your delegates, but if you have presenters relying on Wi-Fi, it's well worth getting that wired. And again, talking to them early can help reduce that. There are other bits and pieces technically which I'll kind of cover as we go through and look at how to work with the in-house team. The in-house teams, in-house AV is not always what it seems. There are varying degrees, and some are fantastic, some are really, really hard to work with. Three types generally. You have a department of that corporation, so they are a commercial entity within that venue. They're normally very well equipped. In fairness, they are normally very well equipped. They have good initial packages for you. Very good normally with the communication. Not always what they see. They are unfortunately often very inflexible on pricing. And they'll often throw in little things like their staff work an 8-hour day and they have an hour for lunch. And if you don't cover that, suddenly you come to lunchtime, your speaker's there and they want to get something ready for the afternoon, but they can't because there's nobody there. So it's something to bear in mind with those guys, and look out for the hidden costs with them. There are partner organizations. We ourselves are partner to a venue. Also, generally very well equipped. The packages are normally designed for the smaller events. So if it's a partner organisation, they're normally edged towards a little one-day event. And when you start getting into a more complex conference, that's where we look to make our money. Good communication always with these guys. Usually a little more competitive as well. If you want something, there's usually a bit more of a deal to be had. With those guys. And the third type is the one to be really wary of, who's Tom the Porter, who was caught focusing a projector one day and now he's in charge of AV. If you come up against that, then get someone in to help you out, because generally speaking, unless you're doing something like this, you'll have some issues there. Just want to run through a few tips on how you can actually improve working with the guys from in-house. And the first thing I say is don't be afraid to get an external AV manager. If you have a company that you're happy working with and you've worked with them in previous events and you know the way they work, they know how you work, having somebody like that you know, whether or not they're actually providing the AV, even if they're just there as a consultant, we can generally save a lot of money. Because when you're working with a commercial entity that's in a centre particularly, they have targets to hit, and if you say to them, okay, I'm going to need to light this conference and I'm going to need sound and I'm going to need something else, they will pile in everything that they can, and they will pile labour on, and it may just be that the person you trust can actually come in and say, actually, yes, we're lighting it, but the lighting is very simple. You don't need the labour on that. And when some of these places will charge you £350, £400 a day for a technician, it can soon add up to some very big savings. They can obviously also check through that what you've used is what you're paying for. We have come across instances where that hasn't been the case. The invoices come in and you go back and double check it, and actually you're spending a lot more. So don't be afraid to use those guys. They can also take the worry away from you, and they understand all the other bits and pieces, and they'll make sure that the staff are there when they need to be, and you're not running around on the radio, or your event organizer from the centre is not running around on the radio trying to find a technician when someone needs to be there. Also, single point of contact for the venue. If you don't have someone looking after it for you, make sure you know who you go to straight away and you can get an answer from, which it's worth noting, don't always count that on being your event organizer. If you're using in-house AV, they generally have someone else you can get hold of, and make sure you've got their details and you can get hold of them straight away. Always double check what's included in your license agreement. And as I say, if you can get more before you actually sign up, all the better for it. That's pretty crucial. It sounds very obvious, but very often they will catch you out with little bits and pieces. And do the packages have hidden costs? Just something to bear in mind. We worked at a venue recently where there was a sound system within the room. The package was a sound system. What they didn't tell us was that we had to pay extra for the power. We had to pay extra for someone to set it up, extra for someone to run it, and extra for someone to take it down. You would assume a sound package has everything included, but it doesn't always. So just in the back of your mind and just double check on questions like that. Going to talk briefly about speaker preview. Speakers can get a little stressed sometimes with things. You may have heard of a speaker lounge or a speaker ready room or what have you. It's called many things. A speaker preview room is all about continuity and confidence for your speakers, for the people coming in. They may not be very experienced at doing it. Maybe their first time. They may use a Mac and they're worried that will the Mac, the one they've done on the Mac, actually work in the main room. They may be using something like Prezi or the Google Apps stuff now. The speaker ready room is somewhere you can take them. They can sit down and relax. There's a technician there who can walk them through it, make sure their presentation is ready to go, explain how it's going to work when they get on that stage, what's going to be on that lectern for them to look at. When they're shaking, then they stand like this, and they've got to remember to press the button. Which button is it? So they don't start pressing the traffic light system as often as they can. Things like that. Just a real confidence giver. It's also there so they can make changes. I would always recommend you get a good internet connection into a room like that, so they can go in, they can grab other bits of information. If they've been in a talk and someone's talked about something that they're going to talk about, they can then come back, sit down, change it, make sure that they're happy with everything. We can also address, difficulties with videos. They've got videos that aren't playing, all that kind of things that worry the speakers. That can all be addressed in there. And the other thing that it's good for is briefing your chairman on what's in the room, what technology you're actually putting in there. More and more with social media, there's more stuff coming in that the chairman has to worry about. They've got traffic light systems, they've got speakers who've been to speaker preview, but they're still not quite sure what's going to happen. They've got to time things, how does the mic work, how does this work? If you've got that room, your chairman can go there, your technician can explain it all to them, show them what's going to, how's the Twitter coming in, how does that actually reflect on what he's doing. And it just gives a good central point. It's a real confidence giver. And it also gives you as an organizer somewhere where you can go straight away. If you know something that needs sorting or you've got a question, you can go straight there and the technicians will be able to communicate with all the rooms and look after that. When you're talking to the venue and you're planning on doing a speaker preview, it is always worth checking with the venue that they can provide tie lines, network connections between the room you want to use and your conference rooms. Again, if you as an organizer or someone that's putting on this event talk to the venue and get that agreement from them whilst you're using it as a negotiating tool with your license agreement, you'll get a far better deal. Whereas if we come in later on and say, right, we need X, Y, and Z, they'll say, that's fine, it's going to cost you £150 per connection per day. So it's worth bearing it in mind. You're thinking, yes, we're going to do this, bear it in mind when you're doing your negotiations. And it can just help save quite a lot of money. Also, bear in mind you have a hardwired internet connection in there. It's always worth having. Don't rely on free Wi-Fi. Coming on really to the audience interaction. I think we all know the days of people going to a conference and just sitting there for 6 hours, having a nice lunch, a little kip in the afternoon, and going back to the office and no one asking them what they got from it or what it was all about are gone. Interaction is a real key thing these days. And I'm going to just touch very quickly on straightforward, regular Q&A, because despite all the technology in the world, that's still the most used thing. It's in every room, every conference that you do. if you want to keep it as interactive as you can, we would say, if someone said to us, we want this to be absolutely as interactive as possible, then I would actually have a microphone for every 50 delegates for Q&A. And I would put mic runners on them, because people generally don't want to get up and walk to the middle of the room and be seen asking that question. They're far happier sat in their corner just asking that. You can go to one mic for every 100. It's not a problem. The more you have, the quicker you can get a mic thrown there, the more conversation you get going. People are, as I say, are still lazy. They won't get up. They don't really want to be seen. And the problem with Q&A is that you don't often get the absolute question that so if I had a question for Mark, for example, about LinkedIn, if I'm thinking everyone's going to know what this is, I'm going to look an idiot asking it. You simply don't, and that's where a lot of this technology is really coming forward. You've got voting keypads. I'm sure you've all seen them, been around for a long time. Very simple. You'll get a far more honest response from your audience. If you ask a question, do you think frogs are yellow? No, and just stick your hands up. You don't get a genuine response sometimes, because people are like, I'm not putting that because I'll just look stupid. Whereas if they've just got a keypad they can do anonymously in front of them, they might give you actually an honest answer. So if you're after some honest feedback, they can be very useful. It can be very quick, obviously, and they are good for gauging opinion. The disadvantage to them, obviously, they're very one-sided. It's you asking them a question and you're getting their response, which is becoming quite old hat. There are then messaging keypads. You can now get people to text in what they want directly. It can be directly moderated. Some of the new apps will let you put agendas up there and other information, and you can just stretch on and on. Those can become very expensive, though. Some of these units, £15 a delegate per day, and by the time you times that by a few hundred, they become really expensive. One of the best ways to do it that we've discovered we've discovered that is coming on now is social media. Social media, there's conference communities, which Mark sort of touched on with one of your slides, asking for our competitor. It's not, fortunately. It's not something that we do, but effectively it is a LinkedIn site, a Facebook site for your conference. You simply give your delegates a registration. It has its own Twitter wall there, if you like. Your exhibitors can advertise on there. It's more space for you to sell to your sponsors. You can start discussions 3 months before your event and finish discussions 2 years afterwards if you want to. And you can have virtual exhibitions on there. It's more exhibition space for you to put on there. I did have one that I could show you, but unfortunately it's now ended. So I wasn't able to put it up to show you live. But it is effectively, you have something like this. You have a Twitter wall here, your sponsors down the side, and it's specifically for your event, which over something like Twitter, which obviously is very open to everybody. Everyone can jump in. This is just for your association or your event, and you can continue it for as long as you want. Twitter in Q&A is something that's coming on a lot and is very powerful. Mark mentioned you see screens giving a Twitter wall in a conference room. Our experience is that doesn't turn out to be very popular, mainly with organisers and speakers, because I could be standing here and someone could go, what a load of nonsense, hashtag skills seminar, it pops up. It's not a great confidence giver for your speakers. Very effective in exhibition areas, to encourage people to use it. Select a hashtag and advertise that hashtag. It's no good just saying, our hashtag is whatever. Let people know about that early. It is very useful for Q&A. It's a far more interactive way of doing it. Your chairman can have the feed up on a machine in front of him. People can ask questions on there. You put the hashtag, it pops up. The chairman can ask it if he feels it's relevant. Your speaker can go back afterwards. If it's something that he hasn't managed to answer, could go back and just answer it directly to the person who tweeted it, or do it generally. And of course, other delegates within the room can answer the questions for you. So if they're monitoring it as well, and somebody knows the answer, they can say, oh yeah, that's da da da, and you can get conversations going within the room very, very easily. Conference communities I've touched on. So that's kind of the interaction. It's all a bit whistle stop. I apologise for that. I want to talk about the recording of events and why do it. Why are we even bothering to record these? I think the obvious thing is it gives your delegates greater access to your conference, and you can extend that further to all the members of the association if you wish to. For example, you want to extend it. We are recording this. This will go up online. We'll then tweet about it, and if someone else wants to come on and view it, they can view it. From our point of view, and from Fitwise's point of view, we'll be there as sponsors. So people who may come on to look at it will look at our sponsorship and do it that way. From delegates at a conference, from their point of view, obviously it gives them greater access. If you have your main plenary room, and you may have, say, 5 breakouts, which they all have to go and select, so I want to do breakout 1, but actually I'd rather like to see breakout 2. They can then go back and view it, have a look at it, decide, get their reference points if they want to. And they can do that post the event, and the site needs to be accessed on a mobile device, not just sat behind a desk viewing it. They should be able to sit on the train and drill themselves looking at things from the conference on the way home, or on the bus. You can put audio recordings up as well, and you can also allow your speakers to put reference websites up there. If they're talking about something particular, and there can be a website that just click the link and they'll give them more information. If you're running courses over a period of time, you can actually put, if you have a course that has an exam at the end, and that exam is an online exam, you can just have a link to click straight on that from those videos, so they can watch the course, click on there and do their exam. And you can also put, the papers up there. You can put PDFs, anything you want to download, anything that's relevant they want to download can all go on these sites. So you're just extending your conference, and you're extending it from a 1 to a 3-day event to, this stuff will be up there for a year. And if it's a course and it's ongoing, you can just keep it there as long as you need to. So commercially, I'll come on to the commercial reasons for doing that in a minute, but that's the main reasons for doing that. Live streaming. Has anyone done a live stream from an event? You have. How did you find it? Did you get a good response? Okay. Yeah. Okay. You don't know the figures that you had on it? Or? Sorry, I'm going to quiz you.
I would say 140 people.
Okay. Yeah. Live streaming is a bit of a buzzword. I think there's a lot of people. It sounds like a wonderful thing to do. If you're doing a recording process, then bolting on a live stream is not terribly expensive. If you're not, and it's just doing it as a standalone thing, it can be quite a pricey thing to do. And numbers are often not quite what you expect them to be. And I'm not surprised that you say that. Give you an idea, we did an event at the beginning of this year. There were 700 in the audience. Delegates in the room. They heavily advertised the live streaming to delegates in America and Asia and what have you. They had, over 3 days, they had 150 people log into a live stream. 80 people maximum at one time. So it's kind of a buzzword that everyone talks about, but is anyone actually really going to sit down at a specific time when they're not at your conference because they probably can't get there for that time because they're busy and watch it? The real advantage seems to be recording and putting it online for them to view afterwards at their own leisure when they want to do it. There are obviously advantages. Sometimes people can't make it. There is a bit of a commercial thing there. You can charge for people to come in and view your conference that perhaps wouldn't have been able to be there before. Seems to work best when you put a couple of plenaries up a day so people can just jump on and watch those plenaries. And of course, you can then extend the range of your conference. This particular one is one that we do. Obviously, you have the presentation, the video. This is just a video here. And you've got sponsorship space here. So there's more space to sell. And they can ask questions. Obviously, if you're using a Twitter, they can just use a hashtag. Or this system would actually directly email the chairman, and then who can then ask the questions. And again, that's his email. They could do it later on. Mark's now going to tell me that email's out of date and move on. But you could use a Twitter hashtag if you wanted to. So people can interact live as well. They're not just watching. But unless you have a very strong reason for doing it, think very carefully before spending that extra money on it, because numbers are never quite what you hope they're going to be. Yeah. No, webinar is slightly different. Webinar is effectively the whole conference online, and this is just simply streaming a video effectively of your presenter online. A webinar is a lot more interactive. This is just effectively putting what's happening in the main room up online for people to look at. Webinars allow you to have direct links and tweet messages and send out PDFs at the same time and do all sorts of other bits and pieces. So it is a little different. And webinars tend to be sort of built up over time. I think is probably the best way of doing it. It tends to be a sort of course-based thing, so people would sort of log on and register for it. Whereas this would just be Joe Blogg speaking for 40 minutes on such a topic, and they talk at you, rather than the really strong interaction you get from that. The commercial reasons is why do it, why record, why put things up, and what can you gain from it? Well, the obvious is the added value to your members and to those attending the conference. Obviously, they get more from the conference. They can view more of it over a longer period. Association members, if they don't attend your conference, you have the opportunity to either give it to association members free after the conference, or for added value for their membership, or you can charge them on a pay-per-view basis. They can pay a little bit extra to get access to that conference, which gives you just a little bit more income there. But the main way to get money is through sponsorship. This is just a clip out of our demonstration site. The sites that we set up can take up to 12 sponsorship spaces. And Paul was saying about giving them something extra. Obviously, these sites are up for a year after or ongoing. Delegates are going back time and time again. Through the registration, you can give them exact details of who's going, when they're going, how often they're going. So you can go back to those people with some hard facts about who's looking at that site. And really, I think the change for us is going to be that this kind of thing could be sold as another sponsorship platform. It's the same as people looking at delegate bags, putting their names on the delegate bags, putting their names up in front of the people on the stage set. There's just another way to do it, but it allows the sponsors to be in front of your delegates for longer. You can use the recording. You can not only record the conference while it's happening and then put it up. You could do recordings beforehand to get people onto that site. Little intro videos from your speakers about what they're going to talk about on certain events and what have you. And these are, they're obviously they're live links, so they can click on and go straight through to your sponsors. So again, you can use it as a solid tool, or as Paul was saying, a little bit of added value. If you're trying to get a sponsor to sponsor something particular, you can say, well, how about we put this on there for you as well. So other commercial possibilities. The other one to consider is if you're running courses or ongoing courses. If you're not recording and you're not putting it up online, once you're, say, 2 sessions through a 6-session course, for example, you can't really sell that to anybody else who's come on or who's just found out about you. Whereas if it's recorded and it's online and it's there, people can go back and say, 2 courses in, you can say, yeah, it's fine, you can join us, it's not a problem. You just need to go back and review the course from 2 weeks ago and join us. So you've got longer to get people's attention and get them on site. So it's been a bit whistle stop. I'm hoping there's some questions coming up. And if there's anything you want to talk about, Martin and I are at the back, just if you have any particular queries that you've got on either on this or on the AV side, the live side, then do ask us. And of course, if you do it all right and get everything right, even if the very worst should happen, it surely will land very neatly for you. So if you have any questions, do ask. Thank you.